Grazie a tutti per essere qui. È un onore vedere tutta questa partecipazione per un evento così importante per la storia di Grace Art, per l'inizio di questo percorso. È un onore avere tutta questa partecipazione. Voglio ringraziare tutto il team di Grace Art per l'organizzazione che ha reso possibile questo evento. Voglio ringraziare la città per l'accoglienza, Fondazione Pesenti Mobiliare che hanno supportato questo progetto e hanno reso possibile questo evento e questa mostra. But it is with great pleasure that I
Ma ora è
welcome the
con
real
grande
guest
piacere
of
che
this
do il
event,
benvenuto
one of the
alla
greatest artists
reale
in the art scene internationally, who has pleased us with her presence today. And I want you to welcome Marina Abramovic on the stage.
Wow, beh, questo è sabato, 11 di mattina, 11:30 e tu ti stai qui? Incredibile. Io amo Italia. Io comincio la mia carriera qui, internazionale, anni 23. È a Napoli. Questa è la prima mia performance, 23 a Napoli. È una cosa che io mai sempre ricordo. Questo mio italiano è terribile e non parlo più la lezione in inglese, scusa per questo. Where's the you took everything away. Okay. All right. Now, this lecture is around 1 hour, or 50 minutes, 55, 1 hour, and then it's going to be question answers. And it's really about performance art. I spent 55 years working on that subject. And when I start very early in ex-Yugoslavia, it was not even any kind of art. Everybody was thinking this is absolutely bullshit, that art doesn't exist, that performance art is nothing. And it took me incredibly much time to convince the museums and art people that actually performance art is becoming mainstream art and is a very, very important form of art. And why performance art is incredibly important? Because, first of all, it's time-based art. You have to be there to experience. If you have the painting on the wall, you hang on the wall and then you can see every day if you want and come back. But performance art, if you're there, you experience, and then all what is left is a memory. So that means the performance is also immaterial form of art. And for me, what is most important is very emotional. Performance deals directly with your emotions. And then, you know, that's what this is. That's why people look in the work, they can be moved, they cry, and they really kind of can really look into their life in different way. So performance always exists. Performance exists from futurists, from Fluxus, Happening, the surrealists, conceptual artists, and so on, and always changing their forms. When economy is great, performance is nowhere to be seen because you're paying lots of money for very expensive art, and you know, is art become commodity? And performance is very low cost, you know. We do performance with nothing, very simple. And then when the economy go down, performance come up like a phoenix, just out of nowhere. But what I discovered in my long career, that actually my work in the beginning was very much to deal with the physical body, experiencing pain and fear and all of that. I staged in the front of audience, and I wanted to go through this. And if I can actually find the kind of strengths and go through my own problems and my own pain in the front of the public, I become your mirror. If I can do this in my life, you can do in yours. So that's what's, why it's important. But I never wanted to do any kind of harm to myself. When I go to the kitchen and cut garlic, I cry, I hate it. I don't like any pain anyway. But really, as a message, that's the different story. Later on, my work became much more spiritual and much more kind of go into very simplicity, like my performance in MoMA, that I sit in the front of any audience that want to sit for me for 3 months. This was so much more difficult than any other work that I done, relating with endurance, pain, and so on. And so I understand that life, the most important performance is durational. If something can go, if you perform 1 hour or 50 minutes or 20, it's easy. And then somehow you can still act, you can still pretend. But if you work something which is, let's say, 3 months, 8 hours a day, non-stop, then performance become life itself. You become vulnerable. You can show your vulnerability, your exhaustion to the public. And the public is vulnerable too. So you can make this connection on so much deeper level than just showing your strengths. So long duration performance become really, also something that I connect to my institute, which is my Abramovich Institute for Performance Art, placed in Greece now, where you actually can learn that kind of art. All right, so here what I'm doing. I am not talking much about my work. I am talking about history of performance. I just show you lots of material, so when you leave from here, you know much more about performance, and I hope you will all love it. Okay, so let's go. So this is a really important statement. I'm sorry that we didn't think about morning, so we didn't actually put the blinds, so you see very, very, kind of diffuse images. But this is, could you read this? Yeah, okay. So this guy was visionary. His statement was made in 1957. He talked about new institutions. Of art, there have to be kind of energy, something, the stage, the energy, and not just, work on the wall. It's really important in this century. Public is tired of just coming and looking at art. Today, public have to be part of something, have to be involved. And this is why performance takes this kind of function. Okay, so I just say some interesting stuff from different artists. This is really important. Bruce Nauman, great American artist, he said the art is a matter of life and death. It may be melodramatic, but it's also true. What that means, when you do something, if you just do 50%, it's not enough. You get 50% interest in public. If you do something 100%, it's not enough. But if you do something 150, that 50% more, when you push your limits of your body and your mind and your soul and every molecule of your being into this 150%, then you actually reach the public in a very different way, because you give everything you have and the public feel that. So then is the question of life and death. Just do it all. And to me, 150% is the only way doing things. Also, I have another statement that I like to say. When you say no to me, is only the beginning, because you never give up. You should never give up. And then also, if you fail, failing is great. Failing is very important. If you fail, that means that you are trying to do something new. And if you're trying to do something new, you're going to new territory, which you don't know, and then you can fail. And then what you do, you stand up and go on and do again, and then maybe you don't fail. But it's really important to take risk. I don't like artists who repeat themselves. You find one way of doing work, and then market likes you, and then you're just making over and over again the same work. I like to surprise myself. I like always to find new ways. And many times being criticized, and these new ways are not appreciated now, but then maybe 10 years are, or never, we don't know. But at least you risk. Okay, next one, Piero Manzoni. I don't care whatever my art is beautiful or ugly, but must be true. That is so important, that truthness, you're not pretending, you're not faking. Fine. Now, one of my incredibly important art, I will just start with Italians, it's his breast of an artist. I mean, talking about the immateriality of art, and this was incredibly important work and made so early in that time. And then every time I saw Arte Povera and I saw breasts of artists, really moves me. It's just his own breast kept in a balloon. Then we have Merda of artist, another important work. And this is really shit of an artist. So of course it's cynical, of course there is a humor in it, but it's very interesting to think what it is, shit of an artist. And I was the French artist who actually asked his galleries, because it's edition and expensive, he asked his galleries to buy the can. Artist is called Bustamante. So he asked the galleries to buy this can, and he invited the public because they wanted to open the can to see it's really shit inside. So it was a big crowd. He stand in the front of all of them, take can opener, open the can. And in the can, he found another little can. And he didn't want to open. He says, not my problem. So we still don't know what is in the little can. Okay. Okay. Then we have signing the work again. Signing work on the body and claiming the body as artwork, but life. So here we have another artist much later, young one from Ireland, which she actually signed her own body. It's really interesting difference in time. Manzoni signed the body of the model and claimed the model artwork, but she signed her own body and claimed the own body as artwork. And that's her name. Okay, we move on. So, Yves Klein, my paintings are just ashes of my art. So it's really interesting. He was involved with the painting the models and putting, the traces of the model bodies on the canvas. But he really think that his art was more into action than really result. It's all about process. Yves Klein claimed the process. So Pollock, the painting has a life of its own and just let it live. So the Pollock, it was interesting when he said that he poured from the canvas, from the can, the paint on the canvas. He said that he was making figurative paintings. He was making words. He was making signs of the body, landscapes. But the moment they fall on the ground, became abstract. Again, process was very important. Then, what we have, Brancusi. So, this is something that I adopt as my own statement. It's not important what you're doing. If you're doing painting, or you're doing poetry, or you're making film, or you're making theater pieces, or whatever art you're doing, which is important is state of mind you're doing what you're doing. State of mind is everything. You have to have total focus. I love this one. You must learn to draw inspiration from the tangible miracle that surrounds us, Boccioni. And he said also, all critics are useless or harmful, Boccioni said. To me, I love this piece because it's so difficult to catch the movement. And in his work, he catches the movement. Movement is something is invisible, it's something in the motion. And this is why this piece is so special. It's one of my favorites. Who is an artist? Good question. you can't become an artist. That doesn't work. You are born as an artist. Because when you come students to me and say, I want to be an artist, I send them home. It's not becoming. You are or you are not. But how you know you're an artist? Let me see, another question. Oh no, okay, this is later. But anyway, how you know you're an artist? You know you're an artist because it's like a breathing. You don't question the breathing. You have to breathe and you have to create. You wake up in the morning and you have ideas and you have to make them. But then you are just an artist. But how you are actually a good artist? That's another step. So the good artist is the one who is obsession, who have nothing else can do, total sacrifice. You have to create, you have to reach isolation, you have to make the work. But still you're a good artist. But how you're a great artist? Because it's nothing else in your life. It's just art, art, art. But this is not enough, which I'm thinking about next step. The only one that only every century can produce is maybe 1, 2, or 3 maximum of this kind of art. And these artists are wow artists, wow. When you get wow, that's the top. This we can say Marcel Duchamp, they can see Malevich, they can see Van Gogh, you can see, the Rothko. There are some of these guys, they are wow. When you reach that point, that means that your art can function in the different centuries. And every art, every century take part that he needs. Can be, social, can be political, can be the spiritual, can be disturbing, can be asking questions. That is really when you reach that wow. Okay, so now artists. Malevich said, I'm new step. Artists, the shamans, the boys say, I'm a shaman. No, it's too complicated to show you. And old material is too gray. Okay, I want to present a true reality, Peter de Mondrian. And you work with the colors. I say I'm a bridge. Why I say I'm a bridge? Because I'm born in ex-Yugoslavia, and I'm really on the bridge between East world and Western world, because East way of seeing time and West way of seeing time. On the bridge is always wins. This is why we have so many wars. It's never stable. But I feel that I'm bridging Eastern culture into the Western culture, and that's my function as an artist. How do you know an artist? I answered the question, fine. What is performance? You're going to see through the lecture. What is the difference between performance and theater? So many people ask this question. What is the difference between theater and performance? It's a huge difference. Performance, you don't rehearse. Performance is unpredictable ending. In performance, blood is real blood. In theater, blood is ketchup. In performance, knife is real knife. In the theater, is not. And that's also, you're seeing something on the stage, the public is in dark, and it's a very different feeling, between theater and performance. I never say that one is better than other. I'm just saying the difference. Wow, that's a huge difference. Okay, Eastern culture. First of all, our culture is so fucked up with technology. It's nothing wrong with technology. It's our addiction to technology that's wrong. We can't live without this telephone, with the gadgets, with the computer, with the watches. And Eastern culture, they can. And Eastern culture really understand what is the spiritual center and understand the body in so many different ways that we don't. We don't live in our body, we live in our brain. It's a much larger subject we can discuss in a conversation. How the art of 20th century going to look? This was the question I've been asked, I think, last in the 20th century. And I was always thinking that actually that it would be no object between human and between artist and audience. It would be direct transforming and transporting energy. Transforming energy is the direct actual intermission. And in that way, the artists have to be a realized human being, and the public have to actually reach that kind of realization in order to understand that it's actually immaterial transaction. Very complicated, we are not there yet. How should artists prepare themselves to make work of art? You know, I love the story of Cennino Cennini, who wrote Almanac, you know, in a time of the Renaissance. He actually explained how artists should prepare themselves, like Michelangelo or, you know, Leonardo, to make Sistine Chapel. What is the preparation? And it's a beautiful statement, and I really like to tell you what he suggests. If you wanted to make the big, you know, mural on the whatever church or the castle, you have 3 months to stop eating meat. You have 2 months before starting to stop having any wine, alcohol, or anything else. Then 4 weeks you have to stop of any sexual intercourse. And then the 1 week before you start, you put your right hand, if you're right-handed, or left-handed, if you're left-handed, in plaster, completely emotional. And then the moment you start to work, you take the brush and you can make a perfect circle. Then you're ready. It's incredible, interesting for me, that kind of preparation. Then you go to East. In East, if you want to make work of art, haiku poetry, or whatever, you go to the mountain, very high in the mountains, and you confront with the chi energy. And the chi energy puts you in the state of mind that you can make great work of art. And in my case, I have an institute in Greece that any of you can go. It's 1 week. You arrive. First of all, we take all your watches, technology, telephones, and computers, total detox. And in that week, 5 days, you're not eating, you're not talking, you're doing heavy physical, mental exercises, and on the end, you get back your technology. It's a life-changing experience, very different for Italian. You really eat too much. Okay, now, so which I'm trying in this lecture, I'm trying to show you different ways of performance. Performance can be divided by the body. You can have just head performing, and everything with the head have the meaning and concept. I will show you now what I mean with that head. So I start with Brancusi. It's a sculpture, but it's beautiful, just head. From that head, I go to Indonesian artist, Surinano. Can we put a sound there? And that's what she's doing. It's a political piece. Suppressing news in their own country. Very simple, and head performing. Next. He's Aborigine, from the Aborigine tribe from Central Australia, who almost is extinguished. He's the first Aborigine man who have a doctorate degree in Oxford University in London, and he's a performance artist. And he decided to make very, very moving performance, holding British flags. And you know very well that British, that terrible stuff in Aborigines in Central Australia. He's holding these British heads, and he's also singing on his own forgotten language.
Wanjawaga Mayara gandu mambunguna nagagu Nagani kumbere beri muntu wuku aja Kuruku aja Kuruku aja Kuruku aja Kuruku aja Arina langu gundu paragu Wanjawaga Mayara gandu mambunguna nagaku Nagani gumbere beri muntu wuku aja Kuruku aja Kuruku aja.
I'm just showing you all these performances are much longer. I'm only showing you a glimpse of it because we have so much to go through. All right, the next one is a Turkish artist. And you know that one of the Turkish kind of kind of things goes to the West is always this belly dance. So she take this idea of belly dance and she take idea of hula hop and she create a political female piece about a really repression of their own culture. So this is the piece I show you in total strength. I mean, when she could not do any more around the neck, she stopped. So this is an old piece with Ula and me. The idea is called Ah Ah Ah. It's just to scream in each other's mouths and see how our voice change. This performance was around 4 hours, and I lost voice for 3 months. Can we put the sound really high? More. More. Sorry. Oh my God, I mix it up now. I pressed wrong button. Never mind, next piece. Sorry, I went completely wrong. Shall we go to the first one? Anyway, so this was a screaming piece, all right? And it's really a sculptural piece, the sound actually confronting each other. Okay. So here it's not that we are beating each other. Basically, our idea was to create a drum, that our body become drumming element, and we are drumming on each other head. I mean, only one side of our head. And when we could not do faster, we just stop. And it's called Light Dark. This is really old work, many, many years ago. Okay. Now, this piece is really kind of piece that I was very depressed in my life. It was many things happen, and I walked the Great Wall of China, and we separate in the middle, Ulay and me, saying goodbye to each other. And this is called The Onion. And I really like this domestic title. I'm eating very big onion and complaining about my life. And it's really symbolic with onion. Onion, so many layers. It's so much to do with domestic. You know, woman is cutting onion, and a man is coming home, and she's crying because she's unhappy. And he said, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "I just cut the onion."
I'm tired from changing planes so often. Waiting in the waiting rooms, bus stations, train stations, airports. I'm tired of waiting for endless passport controls, fast shopping in a shopping malls. I'm tired of more and more career decisions, museum and gallery openings, endless receptions, standing around with a glass of plain water, pretending that I'm interested in conversations. I'm so tired of my migraine attacks, lonely hotel rooms, dirty bed sheets, room services, long-distance telephone calls, bad TV movies.
So the more I speak, the more I eat onion, the more I cry. So there's a kind of mixture of this, of the sadness and the text who goes through. Okay, now eyes. So eyes is another interesting subject. How you can actually perform just with eyes. So I would like to try to start first with the Buñuel movie, which actually made with Salvador Dali and Buñuel. And Salvador Dali's mother paid for the movie. And this is the moment with the cut the eye. And the eye, of course, was a cow eye, so don't worry about it. But it's an incredible moment of using eye as a work. Then I made my own eye, and the idea of my eye is the eye as a landscape. And the center of the eye is a lake. Okay, now we go to completely next section because I'm really trying to go through history. Influence of performance in dance, which is quite big. So, wait.
Legs
no.
are rooted to the ground.
I think, sorry, I'm escaping this because it's very, very old projection and I think you see very bleached. Is that right? It's gray. Okay, so this is, one of the most, I think, influential and the most incredible, innovative and genius woman of dance is Pina Bausch. So I really love, the way how she deal with dance because she put dance into emotions. She think that dancing is walking, dancing is smoking cigarette, dancing is falling in mud, dancing is in the forest. I show you just some examples. This is dancing in the mud. next one is Dancing in the Snow, Naked Feet. And so on and so on. It's the Pina Bausch to me is the really closest to performance because she really put the dancers in real situation and then real emotions come out, and that's the closest to performance. And another interesting artist is the Labri Chakraoui. He's half Moroccan and half Belgian, and he made with Anthony Gormley this piece with the monks, from the Chinese monks, which is kind of extraordinary, acrobatic, and also, come with the collection of the performance and dance. To me, is an incredible combination of the physical effort, almost break dance brought to the modern dance, and actually monks are performing, and then the mixture with the Anthony Gormley sculpture as a part of the installation. Too long, we have to go on. Okay, influence of performance in music. So this is very old material, so I have to escape because next time we have this completely cover black, then you see it. But this is John Cage making his own music with everything he knows. And John Cage really was very big inspiration in my work because he really introduced silence of the entire silence as the idea of music. And just recently in Glastonbury, in end of June, in the biggest rock concert in England, I performed 7 minutes of complete silence to 275,000 people. And I could not believe this was even possible because, it was a rock festival. And I asked them, all of them, to hold their hands on their shoulders and give unconditional love to each other, and which they did. And this was, my response to the protest about the wars, about Palestine, about Israel, about Iraq, Afghanistan, and everything else. That in my case, I always believe that war bring more war, violence bring more violence, killing bring more killing, demonstration bring more demonstration. What we do, only way to change the world is to change ourselves. And to have silence, it was really important. And, John Cage is the one who actually is invented. So I will just go over that. No. Okay, wait. Sorry. I have to tell you what is this about. This is another performance of two young artists from Finland. What they do, they go to different countries and they actually ask people to complain about everything, about their lives, about politics, about everything. They collect all the complaints, they create random choruses, just normal people like you are here, and people singing their complaints. So they're complaining choruses. I would love this group of artists to bring here. I'm so sure in Italy so much complaints. But this is, let's say, one of the complaints here. Oh, sorry, can we go back? Wait, I need a video, play video. After this. Okay, next. Anyway, so Laurie Anderson, we're going to skip this too long. Okay, then it's very interesting how much actually performance and film are related. So I have a few examples of here. The one example is Parajanov, which is one of the most incredible filmmakers from Georgia, and everybody from Tarkovsky to Polanski, to everybody coming from that part of the world was influenced by Parajanov. His famous movie is The Color of Pomegranate. I don't know, it's playing now. And then, I don't know why it's so long. Little technical problems. I come from my country, ex-Yugoslavia, where everything works. So I'm very used to, if something doesn't work, I'm always okay with that. I remember once I started talking, at the moment I got talking, and I have a huge preparation in Belgrade, entire electricity stopped. So I had a choice to make, or to say to the public to come tomorrow and leave on my public way, or do it in the dark. Of course I did it in the dark. At the moment I stopped electricity come, it was great. So let's forget Parajanov. Okay, now Jodorowsky. Jodorowsky is a Chilean filmmaker. He made this incredible movie, which is really cult, El Topo and Holy Mountain. And I just want to show you the few images. I mean, this is, if you think about that movie, it was made in the 70s, how still relevant it is now.
education or experience can have prepared you for this film. Alejandro Jodorowsky's The Holy Mountain. The Holy Mountain is a film completely outside the entire tradition of motion picture art. It is outside the tradition of modern theater. The Holy Mountain is a film outside the tradition of criticism and review.
Wow. So this is another one that also Marco Brambilla, who is a contemporary artist, and he make these films which actually he take 4,000 different materials from different films and they put them together and then play them like almost like a tapestry of the entire our film history. It's not easy to see in these circumstances. I just try to show you a little bit. So every single square is another movie. I'm really sorry to show it, and have to be complete darkness, have to be huge screen, and sometimes you could have 3D glasses that to have full experience. But if you Google his name, Marco Brambilla, you can find out. Okay. Fashion. We have Italy. Italy is about fashion. But I'm showing you something very different, very camp. I'm showing you Leigh Bowery. So Leigh Bowery is from Australia. He came to London in the late, in the 80s. He died from AIDS already in the 90s, but he was one of the most influential in the performance artists in the nightclub culture. And he created incredible much influence everywhere, in the theater, in the cinema, and in the fashion itself. He actually worked with the idea of shame. He would do stuff that is actually shameful even to look, but he had this incredible originality. I was very lucky to work on one piece with him, and that piece, I mean, not many people know. It was theater piece, work with Charles Suttless and Lee Bowery, and the piece was called Delusional, and was performed in the Frankfurt only one night, because we actually wanted to have 400 living rats in a stage. And the one idea how to do that, it was almost, crazy idea, of course. It was to make a metal stage. And then we give to the one Belgian scientist 3 rats to make little magnetic shoes that they can stay on magnetic stage, so that we have 400 rats actually can dance and never leave. So after 2 months, the scientists came back and said to us, it's not possible. It's going to be so much money because every rat have every leg different size. So we never made that piece on the stage, but we put rats inside the stage, with the glass that can be very visible. And he created for me rat costume, really, for the rat queen costume. And I remember that the audience was in a horror, and sanitary inspection closed the theater next day. But anyway, this is, some of these pieces that you have to do it, because you have to risk, you have to try new territory, and oops, didn't succeed. But that's Lee Bowery. So all the costumes he will make himself. And it's this grotesque mask. I mean, this is pretty futuristic. There is a time that he will have entire live person inside his stomach for 10 hours and he didn't even know. And after 10 hours, she would just jump out, almost suffocated. And he also, the way how he make money, the only way that he actually survive is to be live model for Lucian Freud in the studio to paint nudes. That was one with him pregnant with a live person inside. In these performances was always nightclub Berlin, nightclub New York, nightclub. So it's really interesting in the time after 70s when the art, actually performance, body art, completely collapsed. It was just to highlight a little history of that. When the body art was made, the Vito Acconci, artist at that time, who was writer also, he actually, this movement in art called body art. The body is the place where things happen. After the body art disappeared, end of 70s, because there was nothing to sell. Collectors was pushing artists to produce the work, galleries, museums, and so on. So they start working on different things. And then in the end of 80s, this incredible kind of culture in clubs started happening, and Lee Bowery was one of this culture.
I'm going to buy a few little luxuries which I'm finding rather hard to live without at the moment. I'm sporting a rather angular, geometric, rather aggressive print today with a few thousand sequins scattered across it. And I think it'll be perfect to do a little bit of shopping. Well, here we are today, as you might expect, at the world's finest department store, where I'm going to buy a few little luxuries which I'm finding rather hard to live without at the moment. I'm sporting a rather angular, geometric, rather aggressive print today with a few thousand sequins scattered across it. And I think it'll be perfect to do a little bit of shopping. You'll be seeing this look and many others later on in the show. So until then, and here we find ourselves at afternoon tea time. Where else? The beautiful Georgian restaurant, where I've been coming for many, many moons since I was a small boy. The staff here adore me. This rather beautiful outfit I'm wearing is a silk fabric with a floral print in reds, purples, and blues. That's a scattering of rather indiscreet little sequins here and there, and I've lined it in beautiful watermelon satin. This is another one of my autumn predictions. It's a beautiful garment which has these rather strong satin flowers swimming in a sea of sequins. And I've teamed this outfit with sequin gloves and sequin tights.
Eileen! Oh. Hello.
Karen.
You look brilliant.
Join the club.
Yeah, what have you got on this time?
Well, I'm wearing a cropped number this time with a fabric face, you might have noticed. And it has a star, a green star, or perhaps I like to call it a starfish motif, which is surrounded by sequins, which I'm using quite heavily this season.
Why don't you go and put something else on to wow the customers?
What a good idea!
Lee, how much interest do you take in fashion?
And so on. Okay, extreme performance and long durational work. Let's see how we got this. One of the most famous pieces in the 80s was Chris Burden. He crucified himself on the Volkswagen. And there were so many stories about this piece that he actually crucified with the 2 nails on Volkswagen. Then his friend drive him through the Los Angeles, and then the police stop him. And another story was that actually, and the real story was that he was crucified in this garage, and the car was pushed in the front of the garage, and this photograph was made, and that was it. So it's very interesting how the one work from the 70s can go through so many stories, and actually you really have to dig to find the real truth. The 2 golden nails were sold at that time for $2,000. In 1975. So, Australian artist, this is hardcore, okay? I'm going. Hardcore body art 70s, but you survive, I see it. Okay, next. This is, to me, if we talk about a long duration of work, and if you talk about the master, in my point of view, he's a real master. I am just his student, not even close. So, Te Ching is from Taiwan, and he live in New York, and he made 5 pieces in his life, and every single piece is 1 year long. And what incredible thing to do. And when I say to him, you know, every artist, when he do something and he want to put all his ideas in one work, he never succeed. There is always another work, another work, another work. But in his case, he made 5 works, and that was it. So and I ask him, but what are you doing now? And now he look at me with a smile in his face, and he say, now I'm doing life. And this was for me real proof that his work deeply, emotionally, spiritually, and physically transformed him. So I just show you this piece. He created cage in 1970s, cage in his own room. In this cage, he had, he had a little sink for the water, a little bucket to pee and to go to the toilet. He had one couch where just one bed. In that, he lived there for 1 year without having any talking to anybody, without listening music, without writing, with just being there. He had one single friend to come once a day to empty his bucket and, give him food once a day. That's it. 1 year. I was like, unbelievable for me. How this is like a monastic concentration. This is like a monks in Tibetan monastery stayed there for 10 years in isolation. When I asked him, but how was in this room? And he said to me, I had this bed. When I sit on the left side of the bed, this is my bedroom. When I sit in the middle, this is my living room. And when I sit on the far corner on my right, this is my garden. So he was in prison on his own will, but his mind was everywhere. So this was the first piece 1 year. The second piece 1 year was even more crazy. He was actually, you remember the worker clock that you punch the time when you come to the factory? He was doing punching every hour for 1 year. And he made this incredible video that he started with the short hair, And then his hair grow in 1 year. Every hour he would take photo. He never could sleep longer than 1 hour. He never could away from this clock. This was incredible, strong discipline that some human can have. And this to me was like one of these pieces that is mind-blowing. So this was it. I just see I think there's going to be the video to see how he actually, in few minutes, you see 1 year of him, doing it, and the clock is coming into life and his hair is growing. But this was like one of these things that how you can have willpower, how you can have discipline, how you can have this kind of determination that you actually create this kind of performance pieces who are inspiration for all of us. For me, he's a huge inspiration, and he's a living artist, and what he's doing now, he's doing live. Because when you go through this kind of transformation, you don't need to do anything else. That's the thing. So that's him in every clock. The next piece he done, he decided to be 1 year outside, living in the streets of New York, which was unbelievable too, really like a homeless person. He had to actually divide his money in the small amounts that he can buy coffee, food, or anything. And he was hiding in different places under the trees and in the park, and he had a complete map where he can find what. And he was actually washing on the Times on the river, and he spent the entire time exactly 1 year doing that. So this is one. So this was a piece, homeless, 1 year homeless. And the last piece he tied with another artist's string, only 1 meter, and she didn't even know each other, and they spent 1 year tied together. And then I was there actually in 1985 when they cut the ropes. So this is something that to me, talking the duration of work and time, is the really top. There is nothing more than that. And I've done a few long duration of work. One was Walking Great Wall of China, take 3 months, and then the artist is present of 3 months, and then 12 days, without food or talking in house with ocean view. But that long duration of works are essential for transformation and changing. The moment I done this, I stand up from that performance, and I was not the same. I was different. Everything changed. My entire perception of the world changed. My entire perception of seeing, humanity, people, world, and all of this. So what I'm interested in now, it is so much more material we can go on, but I just wanted to, to hear you talking and asking questions. But one thing that I want to say is, to me, art is really about lifting human spirit, not putting human spirit down. There's so many artists actually painting, in the Second World War, painting these horrible things, what's happening in the war. But you have to always remember that Henri Matisse, entire world, four-world war, he was only painting flowers. He was painting flowers. What that says, that actually we need to lift human spirit. We don't need to, we already have enough horror around us. We have to do something which is positive, something that really gives us hope. And I always believe, truly, that art is oxygen of our society. Thank you. Thank you.